He told Myers to get ready to depart to an indirect family, saying that there were 3 reasons why he was sending him to a branch family. Firstly, there were only 2 successors left since Taryn left. Secondly, they would try to stop Ethan from succeeding the position, and thirdly, the support Myers could get would be tremendous if he pretended to be on their side. Myers completely understood his plans. Ethan was worried for his brother as it would be dangerous for Myers to be on the enemy side, but Myers reassured his brother that he would be fine. On the day of his departure, the Grand Duchess scolded him for his lack of preparations. Ethan told Myers that he believed in him but he still needed to be careful. After saying his goodbyes, Myers departed together with Hans. Another carriage was coming towards the Archduke's mansion, 2 people being inside who were complaining about how bad the road was. The yellow-haired boy asked the other man, who was called Shuran, how much was the allowance. Shuran replied that the Baron had been generous and given 100 gold coins. The man told his companion that he would only give 10 gold coins instead of the 100, his companion questioning him as to what he would do if the Archduke got angry. The yellow-haired man was confident, saying that he was a 3-star knight so he would be fine. While Ethan was in the midst of his training, he was wondering what had happened and where his second brother was. He was very frustrated that he could not reach him. Suddenly, a carriage stopped by, and a yellow-haired man emerged. Ethan asked the man who he was, and the yellow-haired man arrogantly threw a pouch containing 10 gold coins at him. Ethan punched the man and demanded to know when the Baron family had become superior to the Duke family. He then grabbed and lifted the man, and told him to repeat what he said, punching him again when he said Baron Kargas. The yellow-haired man released his mana, to which Ethan responded by using a suppression skill, causing the man to fall down again. He said that it did not hurt at all. Realizing that he could not release his mana, the Baron's son asked Ethan what he had done. Ethan had sealed the yellow-haired man's mana, remarking that thieves who steal other people's scrolls to learn with wouldn't even know what a mana technique is. Infuriated, the man attacked Ethan but was beaten again. He then asked the other man why they had come. The man replied that they had come to deliver an invitation and a supporting fee. The next day, Ethan was preparing to depart. His sister asked him if he would be okay and he replied that he would be fine, as he had received an invitation. On his way to the Baron's mansion, Ethan thought to himself that whatever the Baron attempted to pull off, his punishment was already decided. However, seeing as the Baron had sent an invitation, he must have an ace up his sleeve. Poerit, a minor city under the Baron's Kargas headquarters, displayed a flashy facade, but the devastation and despair of the citizens was hidden beneath it. The only ones who despised it were the Duke Arden family, whose sacrificed blood seemed to be wailing from the ground. Ethan arrived at his destination, and a man suddenly asked him if he was the guest. He asked where the third son was. Ethan confronted him, and the man with violet hair angrily grabbed Ethan's collar. He said that he would fix Ethan's attitude. Upon hearing this, Ethan kicked the man, who fell to the ground due to the force of the kick. The man could not believe he had not seen Ethan's attack, and Ethan grabbed the third son and threw him next to the other guy. The man was incensed to see his younger brother in such a pitiful state and asked Ethan if he was the one who had put his younger brother in such a state. Mockingly, Ethan replied, "Who else would?" The man drew his sword and attacked Ethan with intent to kill. Ethan noticed that his opponent was using stolen techniques. His opponent swung his sword, but Ethan managed to dodge the attack. He grabbed his opponent's hair and forced him down onto the ground, the impact of which caused the ground to crack. His opponent remained on the ground and Ethan declared that he would end him with his next attack, when suddenly, someone yelled and told him to stop. Another knight had come to attack Ethan, but was blocked. The man then introduced himself as the Grand Master of the Knights of the Baron family, Menharten. He warned Ethan that if he did not show consideration, he would resort to force. Ethan asked him if raising a sword at a direct line family of a duke was the right thing to do. Ethan had informed the Grand Master Knight that, if he wished to use violence, he needed to be better than a thug. The Grand Master Knight accepted his challenge and rushed forward to attack Ethan. The two clashed, their swords blocking each other's attacks. The knight made another move, attacking Ethan, but Ethan managed to dodge. He thought that the knight was quite skilled. Ethan and the knight continued their clash. The knight thought that he had managed to block Ethan's vision and suppress him without wounding him. However, from out of nowhere, Ethan's sword came straight at him. The knight was shocked and thought he was going to die, but Ethan turned his blade. The knight was left wondering if Ethan had intentionally spared him. A woman had come and held her third son, furious that Ethan had touched him. She ordered the Grand Master Knight to arrest him. The Baron came and told her to stop, instructing Sir Manhattan to take care of his wife and son. The Baron told Ethan that it had been years since they last met and requested that he send his son, who was lying on the ground, to him. Ethan declined his request, further adding that the son of one who ignores the law of the Duke family and raises a blade at an Arden's neck is heavy and, in this case, it would be an execution. The Baron told Ethan to calm down, apologizing on his son's behalf. He further added that, even if Ethan had immunity, there was no power behind the Duke's law now. The Senate had become the center of the dukedom and his son's judgment would also be held at the Senate. Baron Kargas suggested that they clear up the misunderstanding between them and join forces. Baron Kargas had thought that Ethan had killed his son, but he had spared him. He yelled at him, warning him not to test his patience and telling him to let go of his son and beg for forgiveness. Ethan grabbed the Baron's son and stated that he planned to dispose of the entire Kargas Baron family. He threw the man towards the Baron, accusing him of having broken the contract as a vassal and threatening the direct line to hide their sins. He declared that, from that moment, the Baron would be charged with treason, all his rights would be taken away, and his title and castle would be taken. The Baron had ordered his men to suppress the Archduke as planned, to ensure that he could never meddle in their affairs again. Ethan was aware that the Baron had planned some devious tactics. At the same time, a meeting was being held in the Hydran Empire capital, Palantium, and was about to end when the king asked if there was anything else to add. Marquis Bloten of the Marquis Bessus family politely requested permission to speak, which the king granted. The king was puzzled by the Marquis Bessus contribution and wondered when the Archduke and the Marquis Bessus had allied. Marquis Bessus then conveyed Ethan's message to the king and informed him that Baron Kargas had broken the vassal contract in multiple manners such as tariff limit breaking, formation of secret troops, and illegal selling and leaking of the vision of a duke family. The evidence was clearly shown in the memory spheres, and the Archduke had requested the confiscation of the castle. While relaying Ethan's message, Marquis Bessus noticed that the 7 families of the kingdom weren't happy. The king was thinking of whom to side with, whether he should side with the 7 families supporting the collateral, or go with the legendary guardian of the kingdom, the Ardens. The king decided to play it safe and did not side with either party, saying that it wasn't something he could decide on. The Ardens had already been removed from the Senate, but as this was an issue from one family, it did not involve the king. He added that they should trust the Archduke to solve it on his own. Marquis Bessus replied, "So be it. I will deliver that message to him." After hearing the king's response, Marquis Bessus had thought to himself that the king had abandoned the Ardens. Inside the mansion, the Baron's wife was crying, while Sir Manhattan ordered the servants to close the windows and bring some warm tea for the Baron's wife. He then told another servant that he was returning to the Baron, to which the servant reminded him to be careful. The Grand Master thought that something was off, wondering why Ethan hadn't killed him. Ethan was fighting the Baron's knights, one of which found an opening but Ethan dodged the attack by a hair's breadth. Another knight attacked him from above, and Ethan used his sword to defend himself and jump backwards. The Baron thought that his knights were doing a great job fighting against the Archduke. Sir Manhattan approached the Baron, informing him that he had escorted his wife to a safe place. Baron Kargas told Sir Manhattan that he might not need to fight at all, but Sir Manhattan thought to himself that the Archduke was just looking down on the knights. Ethan jumped high, counting his enemies before launching an attack. He managed to escape from being cornered. Baron Kargas wondered where Ethan had learned such a technique. He told Ethan that he wouldn't be able to escape from him, adding that from today on, the Archduke would be locked and forgotten in the basement prison. Not just for 10 years, but forever this time. Ethan was preparing for his next move, saying that his next attack would be a kind of wide-range attack and that he couldn't afford to let innocent bystanders get hit. Ethan released a massive red-colored mana that surrounded the entire field. Baron Kargas wondered what the intense energy coming from Ethan was. The Grand Master sensed that it was dangerous, so he yelled and told them to dodge. Ethan released the second form of his ultimate attack, cutting the Baron's elite knights in half. Some of the knights survived, but many died. The Grand Master defended the Baron, awed by what he witnessed. He thought to himself that the firepower was too great with only a small amount of mana. Baron Kargas was shocked, unable to believe that his elite knights had been defeated with one swing. Ethan reached his body limits, almost running out of mana, and he would have collapsed if he hadn't had the blessing of the Fire Monarch. Ethan then approached the Baron and told him that he was next, informing him that the sin for scorning the Duke's family for so long would not be light. The Baron was terrified, telling his knights that Ethan must have been tired, and whoever took down the Archduke would be rewarded. Grand Master Manhattan was sweating in fear, thinking to himself that it was impossible. The skill Ethan unleashed wasn't just powerful, but it also accurately found his target within that massive attack. Something he had never seen before. Those who had survived must have felt the huge gap in power between them and the Archduke. Even if they stood up, they wouldn't be stupid enough to raise their blades. Ethan asked the Grand Master if he wanted to go again. The Grand Master replied that he had already lost to him. Upon hearing this, Ethan attacked Baron Kargas, causing him to lose consciousness. Grand Master Manhattan hurriedly went after the Baron to check his condition. Ethan ordered him to lock up the Baron in the prison and watch over him. The Grand Master was shocked, asking Ethan if he wanted him to imprison his own lord with his own hands. He added that he was also a knight following a knight's code. Ethan replied to him that he was leaving it to him because he was a loyal knight. The Baron had already forfeited his title by committing a treason, and, according to the law, their family members all would be executed if he managed to escape. He further added that he should not forget his purpose if he was a loyal knight. Manhattan replied that he would follow Ethan's order. Baron Kargas was sent to prison, making a fuss and yelling, demanding that they open the jail. Ethan told Sir Manhattan that he would leave the rest to him. As Ethan was about to leave, Sir Manhattan asked why he and some select knights had been spared from attack despite following Baron Helmut's orders to attack Ethan. Ethan replied that the sword speaks the heart and that he had likely heard before that knights talk with their blades. Everyone he met after waking up from Mana Rush was the same. They all wanted to bury the Duke's family, who had saved their country, as if what they'd done was shameful. However, after clashing blades with Sir Manhattan and the other knights, Ethan realized that there were still people who respected the Duke family in a world like this. He was a bit relieved. It didn't matter much whether it was remorse or longing. Whatever the reason was, there was still someone who remembered and respected the Duke family's blade, and that was enough for Ethan. Ethan said that he had talked for too long and then told Sir Manhattan that he would leave the place to him. Ethan entered the Baron's office, where a person was waiting to greet him. The man introduced himself as Raymond, the oldest son of the Baron family. Raymond told him that he had been waiting for him to arrive. Ethan approached him and told him to choose his words wisely. Raymond was thinking to himself that he was different from his brothers and father. Raymond asked Ethan if he wanted to make a deal with him. Ethan grinned, grabbed Raymond's neck, and lifted him up. He told him that a deal is made when both parties are in the same position. He reminded him that the Baron family had raised a blade, committing treason to the direct line of the Arden family, and asked Raymond if he thought he was in a situation to make a deal. Raymond was having difficulty breathing and thought to himself that he needed to talk before he died. He told Ethan that he knew some information about the seventh family of the kin. After hearing it, Ethan dropped Raymond down, threatened him, and told him that if he spouted any lies, he would send him to prison for treason. Raymond replied that it was really related to the seventh family and handed him the book, containing the agreement before technology. After the Arden family was ruined, the seventh family requested the Duke's vision book from the collateral families. Because they wanted to prevent danger from nearby nations by raising their troops, which had been weakened by the war, they had no choice but to hand over the Arden's vision book. Raymond explained to Ethan that, with their technology, they could never understand the trick to the vision, so they had to buy the simplified version from the seventh family. Ethan was frustrated, thinking to himself that the Baron family was incompetent. Raymond further added that high-rank translations such as mana breathing were so expensive, they had to greatly tax the citizens. Ethan told him that the book was trash, with only miscellaneous skills. Of course, if they were sane, they wouldn't have given away something so important so easily. In the end, the Baron family only got used and lost everything. When everyone was having a hard time, they had relied on each other and made an alliance, but in a world where the danger was gone, they only wanted to fill their own greed. Ethan told him that he would spare the remainder of the Baron's family, but in return, he ordered him to bring him all of the Baron's account books and wait at the outbuilding until further instructed. Raymond felt relieved to hear it. Ethan was wondering where he was. He thought he had been training in the training grounds just a moment ago, when suddenly a dragon had swung a sword and slashed him. Ethan thought he had been cut by the dragon, but found another knight had been slashed by the dragon. He realized he was in his past memories. A man suddenly appeared and spoke, telling Ethan that it was a pretty big victory for the Archduke. Ethan realized who the man was, the past Baron Kargas. The past Kargas told him that Ethan should be dead and in hell. Suddenly coming back into the world and flying around makes Ethan look like a Wyverian. The past Kargas asked him if it was right for him, telling him that Ethan was just an outsider. Just like the ones he hated. The man further added that he should not change the flow of the world on his own. Ethan yelled, "No," and slashed the phantom of Kargas. Ethan thought to himself that his sister, Myers, and Terran were all alive, unlike in his past life. It didn't matter what was right or wrong, no matter what the flow of this world was, he would protect his family no matter what. Suddenly, Ethan heard someone yelling. An old man was making a commotion at the front of the gate, trying to get in and saying that the Archduke knew him. The man grabbed Jaren, telling him to let him meet the Archduke. Jaren responded that he was also a guest. Ethan approached them and asked if he was Priscien. Noticing that Jaren was also present, the old man was glad to see the Archduke. Priscien, nicknamed the document-catching monster in Ethan's past life, was one of the Arden family's core people, someone who had risen from being a commoner to account with his skill alone. No administration task would take more than an hour with him. After the commotion at the front of the gate, Priscien had calmed down and was explaining to Ethan that all the executive officials, including himself, had been kicked out for simply supporting Ethan. Ethan thought that they had cut off useful people first in order to break the Duke's family from the inside. He was just starting to look for someone who could take care of administrative tasks for him, so he was thankful that Priscien had come just in time. Ethan said to say hello to Michelin, who was a merchant working for the Duke's family. Priscien told Jaren that he was sorry, to which Jaren replied that it was alright. The Archduke suddenly taking over the Baron's family had made Jaren very surprised. Jaren was worried that the Senate might do something about it, but Ethan told him to stop talking about the Senate. The place was under Duke Arden's family, the Arden's land. Jaren replied that this was only if the king gave ownership. Ethan told him that he had heard it all from the eldest son of the Baron's family, from the collateral families to the seventh family, they were pulling off quite the spectacle. He asked him if he, the direct line of Arden, really needed permission to take it back from a useless king who had made it like this. He told him not to worry and that he would bring good news soon. Jaren sighed and said that he would believe that because it was Ethan saying it. He then said that he would be on his way to take care of the business Ethan had assigned him. Jaren left the two, and Priscien told Ethan that he was glad to see the changed Archduke. Priscien said that, at the present situation, Ethan needed many administrative people. He said that he was raising a child and asked Ethan if he wanted to meet him. The white-haired kid entered the room. Priscien said that he had adopted him through a connection and had brought him along. The kid greeted Ethan, then introduced himself as Lawrence. Ethan was shocked to hear the name Lawrence, thinking that he resembled someone he knew. Ethan remembered his past memories, when they were fighting against the dragon army. A white-haired knight riding a horse approached Ethan. He was called Sylvia and said that their troops were in position. Ethan replied to him that Sylvia was always faster than he expected. Ethan told him that Sylvia had been working hard, planning for a week. Sylvia had managed to turn the tide on the Highlands, with Arden's death-defying corps playing a big part. Now Ethan just had to give the attack command. Sylvia was probably the only soldier who planned strategies like that, always sending the cavalry to the best positions of the enemy lines. Ethan said that he should really have to recognize Sylvia's ability. He realized that Sylvia hadn't slept for 3 days. Ethan was worried that Sylvia might collapse and leave everything to him. Sylvia told him that, after he ingrained the plan and tactics into his body, he was never at ease when a person died, and in a situation in which the entire human race was in danger from those monsters. If he could save even one more person with his tactics, he would gladly lay down his life. Ethan told him to cut all of those damn invader bastards off and save the human race. When the dragons marched forward, Ethan rallied his troops. That day's fight was more violent than any other, countless lives were lost, but thanks to the genius soldier Sylvia's tactics, the humans overcame a huge disadvantage in power and won. But, that was the last of Sylvia. Back to the present, Ethan was sure that the kid was Sylvia, but he was wondering why Sylvia was calling himself Lawrence. Not just the name, but his mood was also different. Unlike the past, after Arden fell, it looked like things had changed such that the collateral families were becoming tyrants. Lawrence spoke, thanking Ethan for taking revenge on the Baron. He said that his family had starved to death because of the excessive taxes. Precien told Ethan that he had come because Lawrence wanted to see him. Ethan thought of testing Lawrence to see if he had the same talent as Sylvia. He told Lawrence that Precien had recommended him, so he was sure Lawrence knew the Baron's current situation. He asked Lawrence how he should take care of the rest of the Baron's family. Lawrence replied and said that he thought sparing them to keep them as scarecrows would be best. Ethan asked his reason. Lawrence told him that, if he didn't drag the Karga's name down, other families wouldn't be able to come mess with him easily. He explained that, even as scarecrows, Kargas was still Kargas, and if he guaranteed them a position, he would be able to recruit some snitches in the future, as many had been forced out thanks to the current power struggle. He concluded by saying that he was lacking in numbers, and that Ethan should use as many people as he could. Ethan asked Lawrence what he should do from now on. Lawrence responded by saying that he believed Ethan should make an army. He further added that Ethan couldn't handle the other 9 families on his own, and that he should trick the collaterals and bait them into fighting each other. He explained that he would have enough time if he could do that, and that if Ethan could split up the Duke's land into 3 parts, he would have already won. Ethan smiled, as he thought that Lawrence and Sylvia were the same person. He told Precien that he had a smarter child than he would have guessed. He then asked Lawrence if he wanted to become his advisor. Next, Ethan is set to continue his success as he works towards his next goal. Find out how he will fight against the 7 families and the king.